Last weekend, Remembrance Day services took place across the country this weekend. Our reporters were there at some of the local tributes. Also this week, we look at the safety of smart motorways and what the government are doing to ensure risks are minimised in the wake of a number of fatal incidents. And there's football galore, as our sports team have been covering matches across the county. Hello and welcome to Winchester News Online. I'm Ben Morris. Remembrance Day took place this weekend with services held across the local areas. We sent our reporters to Southampton, Bstoke and Winchester to cover the events.
The lives of those lost during wartime were honoured in a moving service at the War Memorial Park in Basingstoke on Remembrance Sunday. Last year, the town was unable to host its annual service due to the coronavirus pandemic, instead hosting a tribute online. However, this year, the memorial was allowed, and the Mayor of Basingstoke, Councillor Onnalee Cubitt, laid the first wreath. The touching service lasted for about an hour, beginning with music from the Salvation Army Band, and a parade of armed forces and cadets. And then, silence. 2 minutes of quiet reflection for those brave soldiers, lost in conflict protecting their country from tyranny. The hundreds in attendance, including over 260 in the parade alone, stood still as the bugler played out the last post. Wreaths were laid, and hymns were sung.
I think it's extremely important for the young children in particular to be aware of the sacrifices that were that were made for our freedom. I think more than ever, especially when the last of the veterans who were fighting and survived First World War and Second World War died.
Today's service in Basingstoke was one of many taking place across the country. The 70 wreaths serve as a sombering reminder to the cost of war, paying respect to those who made the ultimate sacrifice.
At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
Matt Rooks-Taylor, Winchester News Online.
A moment to pause and remember those who sacrificed themselves for our freedom. Armed forces and veterans paraded from Winchester Guildhall to Winchester Cathedral to pay their respects. The Bishop of Southampton and Dean of Winchester were also in attendance in a year which marked the 100-year anniversary of the Royal British Legion.
I think it's extremely important to remember those who have served, continue to serve, and pay the ultimate sacrifice so we can live our freedoms as we do today, especially during the coronavirus pandemic. The armed forces have really helped out, and it's important we remember those who helped and also paid the ultimate sacrifice as well.
With only limited spaces inside the cathedral, the event was live streamed on the Winchester Cathedral website and YouTube channel. There were much fewer restrictions than last year, where COVID heavily impacted the remembrance.
As a person who was born after the Second World War, but I still remember all the people who died in the First War, Second War and all those thereafter. And we just have to remember them because they died for our freedom.
And the service ended with wreaths being laid at the War Memorial, followed by a 2-minute silence.
After a COVID-affected Remembrance Sunday in 2020, with only a limited capacity attending, the service returned close to normal this year. Other services also happened across Hampshire to mark the remembrance. Cameron Cornell, Winchester News Online.
On Sunday, Southampton paid their respects to the men and women who lost their lives in conflict, as Remembrance Sunday returned after last year's service was not allowed to take place due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The ceremony started with parades from the local forces regiments of Southampton.
I think it's very important remembrance that the younger generations remember the sacrifices of our grandfather's generation, our father's generation, and it should be almost mandatory that we show our support to the armed forces and the ultimate sacrifice many of them made. We've all got friends and relatives and colleagues that are no longer with us. And I think it's a sort of moment for personal reflection as well as sort of a group remembrance as well.
They marched into the historic Southampton cenotaph, erected just after World War I to mourn the fallen. It wasn't just about military, it was about the city, as residents from all across Southampton came together to commemorate the lives of those who fought, so we can live the lives we do today. One of those was the Southampton biker community, who have been laying a wreath at this ceremony for the last 5 years.
Very proud. It's a very proud moment, just representing the community really. A lot of bikers have military connections, a lot of are just very patriotic. We believe it is being respectful to those people that protect our country. Today we had over 45 bikes turn up. In the past we've had over 100 bikes turn up. It's a very well supported event, and as I said, it means a lot to us, respect to our soldiers and to our country.
This is Kurt Hill from Winchester News Online.
Smart motorways have generated much controversy in recent times as reports of highway casualties continue to grow on these new roads. Alex Franklin reports.
Britain's roads are changing, but according to many, not necessarily for the better. Since the integration of smart motorways began, there has been an ongoing back and forth between steadfast MPs and campaigners troubled by the lack of a hard shoulder, some of whom have lost loved ones to the motorway.
My husband was actually killed immediately, so they didn't even try and get emergency vehicles to them. I mean, the hard shoulder was needed from the beginning of motorways. We had it for 50 years. It never failed to be there. Unlike the technology involved in what should be replacing the hard shoulder, this fails. But the other problem that gets forgotten about is, even if you blame bad drivers, even if you say these problems are caused by people not driving the way they should be driving, that doesn't help an ambulance try and get through 4 lanes of stuck traffic.
On conventional motorways, emergency vehicles often use the hard shoulder to bypass traffic. On smart motorways, however, it's far harder for these vehicles to avoid congestion. Variable speed limits and traffic flow technology have been put in place to minimise risk, but nevertheless, this is clearly a major problem that can have life-threatening implications. Additional emergency zones have also been added in an attempt to create a safer refuge for drivers. So the Department of Transport have released a report. In the report, they say the emergency areas we have created on smart motorways, if you can reach one, are safer places than a hard shoulder. I just wanted to get your thoughts on that.
When has a vehicle in the history of vehicles ever broken down at a convenient stop, at a convenient point? So, and it's the whole premise of their campaign, their advertising campaign, that they have never done until this year. They've been in 10 years, in common use smart motorways, and they've only done an advertisement campaign when forced by us. And it's go left. So all it says, go left. Well, what if you can't go left? The whole problem with this is, what if you can't go left? My husband's vehicle was capable of moving, and he still died.
The hard shoulder, although not the safest area for motorists, was always there. On smart motorways, though, breakdown areas are far less frequent. We approached the Department of Transport directly for comment. In their response, they reference a recent report made by the Transport Select Committee, the independent regulatory body for the Department of Transport. They say that in the report, it categorically stated that reintroducing the hard shoulder is more dangerous and likely to result in injury or death, although failed to provide any suitable alternatives to the hard shoulder. Hampshire residents can hesitantly await the arrival of their stretch of smart motorway, as the M3 is currently under reconstruction between Junction 9 in Winchester and Junction 14 at the easterly turnoff towards Southampton. The Department for Transport have maintained that they are and always have been prioritising safety. The head of Transport, Grant Shapps, has said that he's greatly concerned by the number of fatal incidents on smart motorways. He also wants smart motorways to be safer than the conventional kind they're replacing. I think it's safe to say that the inquest will continue and that we certainly haven't heard the last of it. Alex Franklin, Winchester News Online.
With climate change a topic on everyone's lips, increasing pollution must be carefully considered. Southampton Airport has done this. However, it has led to protests within Southampton. Our reporter, Alistair English, was at the protest.
Southampton Airport is set for expansion. The runway will extend by 164 metres, but this has hit legal challenges from protesters who want to stop the expansion with legal action. The airport says it wants to create new flying routes for customers and make 400 new jobs for locals. Protesters are unhappy with the added noise pollution created by larger planes that will arrive at the airport and health issues such as more pollution. The protests has the support of local MP Alan Whitehead and various councillors who are concerned about the effect on people's health.
People can't have normal conversations with their neighbours, they can't go into the garden and enjoy peaceful environment, and kids in school often aren't able to concentrate on their lessons in the same way as they used to. And after decades of that, you end up with serious health outcomes for those communities.
Steve Zaloy, Operations Director at Southampton Airport, could not comment for legal reasons. However, local MPs have supported the expansion of the runway. An airport spokesperson told me Southampton Airport works closely with local authorities on measures to tackle the climate emergency. The airport has been carbon neutral since 2020 and, as part of the wider AGS Airports Group, has a sustainability strategy in place to decarbonise its operations by the mid-2030s. Expansion of Southampton Airport has led to protests in Guildhall Square, Southampton. Climate groups such as Extinction Rebellion and Greenpeace are in attendance. The expansion was originally rejected by Eastleigh Local Area Committee. However, when it went to Eastleigh Borough Council, the expansion was accepted by a vote of 22 to 13. Alistair English, Winchester News Online.
COP26 came to an end this Saturday after countries struggled to come to a final agreement following China and India's refusal to cut out coal completely. I'm here with Hagar Hagen to talk about the agreements made at the conference. Now, Hagar, one of the goals at the start of COP26 was to keep the average temperature change to 1.5 degrees. Did they succeed or not?
No, not really. They did make progress, but they haven't quite hit the target just yet. Experts estimate that we're now on our way to between 1.8 and 2.4 degrees, so possibly quite a bit above 1.5, which could be catastrophical. In the Paris Agreement from 2015, they set a goal to keep temperature increase to around 1.5 degrees, and before COP26 we were headed for 2.7. So although they haven't quite hit the target yet, they have made progress.
So there was another sticking point all around coal. What's happened there?
Well, there's been a lot of discussion around the agreement on coal. The agreement mainly focuses on unabated coal power, so coal power without any measures to reduce CO2 emissions. Some have been very positive to the agreement, and they have said it was historical as it's been the first COP conference to set out a clear plan to reduce coal use, but others have been very negative, especially after the agreement changed from phasing out coal to just phasing it down. Experts and activists have been very critical of the agreement and of countries' willingness to actually create change. And another thing to mention is that the agreement isn't actually legally binding, so it's now up to the countries themselves to create change and to prove to people that the agreement wasn't just full of empty promises.
Well, we will see if they stick to their promises, won't we? Now, homelessness is on the rise across England. Our reporter, Isabella Jagger, spoke with Winchester's leading homeless shelter.
The Winchester Beacon is the new working name of the long-established charity Winchester Church's Night Shelter. Located on Jury Street, they provide emergency shelter to those experiencing homelessness in Hampshire. and after adapting to cope during the pandemic, the charity made the decision to change their name to better reflect the service they have now become.
So for several years we'd spent a lot of time saying we're called Winchester Church's Night Shelter, but we're not really a night shelter, because we were already offering a huge amount of support rather than just a casual bed for the night. And then this grew to be even more the case over the pandemic. As soon as the announcement was made that we were going into lockdown, there was just no way that we could not be that safe place that we were all asked to retreat to. So from Boris's announcement in the evening, by the next day we'd changed to be 24 hours. Being around each other all day and all night, the connection is so much stronger, and residents reach out much more, I think, for help because they've built more trusting relationships.
Homelessness is on the increase across England, and according to latest figures, rough sleeping estimates show an increase of 52% since 2010, with almost 3,000 people estimated to be sleeping rough at night.
I think we all know in society at the moment there's quite a lot of pressure on a lot of families. We've all gone through some pretty challenging months, and it's left people with very uncertain times ahead in terms of employment, relationships. Everything is indicating towards the demand for our services only going up.
The Winchester Beacon remains the only night shelter to offer emergency access to single men and women in the country. Open all year round, residents are able to stay anywhere between a few weeks to a year. To reduce shared airspace, the building now offers 10 single bedrooms, giving residents more stability and privacy and the opportunity to access more of the charity's personalised support. Isabella Jagger, Winchester News Online.
Sutton Scotney's clock tower has been under renovation for the last few weeks. This very expensive task has seen the rise of crowdfunding. Dorian Pavereau reports.
For the first time in 119 years of history, the Victoria Hall clock in Sutton Scotney has stopped chiming. Earlier this month, the clock faces had been removed, restored and refitted, but are now being reconnected to the clock mechanism. This very expensive renovation has seen the arrival of a fundraising campaign.
The Victoria Hall in Sutton Scotney has a clock, which is part of the village hall, which is very important to the community. And we realised the clock was beginning to lose time, and so we decided we must have it repaired and restored. Once we started to look at repairing the clock, we discovered that the tower that the clock is housed in, which was built in 1902, was also needing repairing. The wood was beginning to rot and various things, so we got various estimates, and it began to come into the thousands of pounds. Like all old buildings, we discover other things. The weather vane at the top of the clock no longer turned.
The crowdfunding has already raised £2,150, with 36 people donating so far. Susan Nielsen, very close to the community, has donated.
The clock tower and the village hall in Sutton Scotney have been part of our life here for many years. I've only been in the village 15 years, but it's been something that we've just come to recognise and rely on, that regular chiming of the clock, and to see it all cleaned up and looking so wonderful, and we can't wait to hear the sound of the chimes once the clock's replaced.
Following on from the restoration, the clock was ready and in working order for Remembrance Sunday, when the people of Sutton Scotney heard it chime once again for the memorial service. Dorian Pavereau, Winchester News Online.
And now we go over to Oliver McLennan with a roundup of this week's news.
The A272 is set to be closed overnight following an overturned lorry. Hampshire City Council has announced that the roads will be closed in order to repair the damaged road surface following the recovery of the lorry. Southampton City Council have announced plans for a new £42 million flood alleviation scheme. The plan aims to reduce the risk of flooding after identifying 50 homes and over 200 businesses, along with key infrastructures also being at risk. And finally, National Express is set to return to Winchester. This comes after the service stopped running in September in order to find a more suitable drop-off point in the city for the buses, as the stop was originally deemed too narrow.
Thanks, Oliver. Now we head over to sport with Harry Turberfield.
Winchester City were looking to get back to winning ways on Saturday, hosting Bristol Manor Farm at the Simply Health City Ground.
Our reporter Max Rumbold was there.
Winchester this weekend were looking back to getting to winning ways after a 2-2 draw last week, and they did just that after an emphatic win here against Bristol Manor Farm, who were sat in 3rd place at the start of this game. City ended up beating them 5-1 here. There were some excellent finishes over the weekend, with a red card being shown to a far midfielder. It's really opened the door for the home side to take advantage of the match. A well-executed team goal set them on their way. Star man Simba Malamba also found himself on the score sheet once again. And a brace from number 14, Feeney, saw Winchester ease past their opponents and guarantee all 3 points.
Yeah, I thought we were terrific today. I thought a real solid Southern League performance from the boys. They've taken on a lot of what we've done during the week. Tuesday, Thursday, we've done a lot of attacking play, getting shots off, and we've done that today. But our aim is to try and get in the playoffs, and obviously Bristol Manor Farm will be one of them teams that will be up and around the playoffs. I'm sure that they're a very good, strong team. So yeah, it was good to get one over them and go level points to them in the playoffs.
Max Rumbold, Winchester News Online.
Basingstoke have had a busy few days, playing 2 fixtures this week. Our reporters Harry Jones and Matt Rooks-Taylor were there to report on the action.
Basingstoke Town returned to home action for the first time in over a month last Tuesday as they hosted the high-flying Oxbridge FC at the Winkleberry Sports Complex. The Dragons went into the fixture 7th in the league table after racking up 6 wins from their first 8 games, and boss Dan Brownlee named a starting 11 that featured 2 re-debuts for the returning Nathan Smart and Stefan Brown. The home side dominated proceedings early on, with the left-hand side of James Howarth and Bradley Wilson proving too hot to handle for the Uxbridge back line, before a threaded through ball from Simon Dunn led to Connor Lynch going close to breaking the deadlock. The Basingstoke pressure continued as the first half progressed, and the best chance of the game came on the half-hour mark as a piercing ball from Dunn led to Wilson's one-on-one attempt being cleared off the line. Half-time, Basingstoke 0, Uxbridge 0. The home side struggled to carry their momentum from the first 45 into the second half as Uxbridge had an early penalty shout turned away before Paul Strudley made a smart stop to deny the visitors. Basingstoke soon responded, however, and left winger Wilson went close with this long-range effort, before Uxbridge lost their discipline. Centre-back Elliot Poley was dismissed for this high tackle on the edge of the 18-yard box. Things soon went from bad to worse for the away side as the Stoke went close with a free kick and then eventually broke the deadlock in the 76th minute, with substitute Ben Cook heading home to make it 1-0 to Dan Brownlee's side. Uxbridge weren't out of it yet though, and they had yet another penalty call turned down by referee Stephen Hawkes. And as additional time approached, the pressure continued to mount on the home side. Then, in the 95th minute, Uxbridge laid their dagger in the hearts of Brownlee's men with a left-footed strike from Undu Kuba, earning his side a point right at the death. Full time at the Winkleberry, Basingstoke 1, Uxbridge 1.
Bitterly disappointed. I think we played particularly well in the first half. I think we extended that into the second, and were it not for a lack of game management in the last stage of the half, we should definitely be coming away with a win there. As I've said to the boys in the change rooms, like if there's any game we can learn from, that is it. Because if we can't learn from that, I don't think we ever will. So hopefully we won't see a repeat of that. So it might be long term of benefit, but I'd rather we didn't.
Basingstoke hearts were broken here tonight at the Winkleberry Sports Complex in the 95th minute, as a late Uxbridge equaliser meant they walk away with just a single point. The home side put in an impressive second half performance, and substitute Ben Cook made an instant impact to make it 1-0 in the 76th minute, before Uxbridge stole a draw in the 95th. The Dragons now stay 7th in the table after tonight's result, and Uxbridge, the visitors, stay in second. The real question we're left with now is just how will Basingstoke progress after tonight's disappointment? Harry Jones, Winchester News Online.
On Saturday, Basingstoke Town faced Tooting and Mitcham United in their push for promotion. But before the action-packed clash, a moment was taken to pay respect for those lost in war. The two teams gathered in the centre circle for 2 minutes of silence, as wreaths of poppies were laid down. But then it was straight into the action. The Dragons wasted no time in opening the scoreline in the very first minute with a sublime strike from skipper Simon Dunn. But the game was far from being done and dusted as Tooting equalised shortly before half-time. But not long after half-time, the Stoke struck back through George Reed in the 53rd minute. Just 10 minutes later, Tooting fought hard and came up with an equaliser against the run of play. But in the 69th minute, there was a controversial handball, which led to a penalty to the home team. Which Brad Wilson calmly tucked away, ensuring victory for the Yellow-Blue Army. Manager Danny Brownlee was delighted that his somewhat makeshift, injury-ridden team pulled off this impressive display.
Yeah, great performance. The chips have been down this week. Like we've really struggled in terms of injuries and stuff. We've had 4 centre halves out. We've had our top striker out in terms of goal scoring. So it's been a difficult week. And when you have to rope in a 40-year-old for as good as he is, and your centre forward is playing at centre half as well, you know you're going to be in for a bit of a ride.
Today's 3-2 win against Tooting and Mitcham saw a vast improvement from the 1-1 draw last Tuesday against Oxbridge. Basingstoke will be looking to continue their unbeaten run and make it another win against Chertsey here at Winklebury this coming Tuesday. This is Matt Ricks-Taylor, Winchester News Online.
So Matt, as we went to the game, manager Danny Brownlee told us that the team had at least 4 injuries, which obviously put them in disadvantage. But how do you think they performed overall?
Well, as a team with 4 injuries, they certainly didn't play like one. They had a striker, their most prolific goal scorer in fact this season. He was playing as centre-back and he just seemed so natural. Simon Dunn, the captain, he's been a staple of the team for many years. I remember watching him when I was younger. He scored in the first minute, so to take control right from the start, it just, despite the injuries, it's all credit to them.
I mean, after the game with Tuesday, the manager said that he wasn't very happy as they've done enough to actually win the game and there should be some game management improvements put in place.
Yeah, it's just closing out the game against Oxbridge. That's where they were let down. 95th minute to concede an equaliser is obviously going to be gutting for everyone involved. Yeah. But they've clearly worked on things in training, they've improved, and even with injuries they've come together and performed like they did, and they look like they're a force to be reckoned with this season.
Yeah, the Saturday game actually led them to the 3rd place in the league. But what was more memorable for me was the amount of fans that they had there.
Yeah, well, Basingstoke is actually well renowned for being one of the largest non-league following. And to bring out that many fans week in, week out, despite not even having their own home ground, the Camrose anymore, is it's astonishing. We caught up with Jack Miller, the chairman, to find out more.
There needs to be a replacement. We need to have our own things. We're limited here, even though it's been a fantastic lifeline. And today, as you can see, it's been packed. But we need somewhere for ourselves.
And we also mustn't forget the fact that the online news page, The Athletic, came down to write a feature on Anton Rodgers, who is the son of Brendan Rodgers. Many people will know is the Leicester City manager.
Yeah, I mean, that just shows how much potential there is in the team, and we hope to read the feature very soon.
University of Winchester's first team took on the Bath Fourths on Wednesday, with the winner of the tie advancing to the next round of the Men's Western Conference Cup. Tyler Reynolds reports.
And it was Winchester who struck first, Ben Walsh heading home from a Matt Davis corner. Scoring the only goal of the half, Winchester went into the break in the lead. But a stunning free kick from Bath's number 7 saw them tie the game back up to 1-1. But Bath's early goal didn't faze the hosts, as they came forward again almost straight after conceding. On this occasion, It was IK Hill who saw his powerful strike parried away from goal. And almost instantly after being denied, Hill was brought down in the box after he was sent through on goal by a defence-splitting pass from Matt Davis. And Hill stepped up and scored, restoring Winchester's 1-goal advantage. Late in the game, Winchester had a golden opportunity to seal the win. But a heavy touch from Winchester's number 18 meant the ball trickled into the goalkeeper's arms instead of into the back of the net. But the third goal did eventually come from Winchester. Tom Bevan's deflected strike rolling into the bottom corner, cementing the victory for the hosts.
We've got some strong midfielders. I think my team, especially, I always want hard work, I always want 100%, and I think my midfielders definitely did that today. All around the park, we 100% did it. We had a few people trying out new positions, a few people slotting in different places, and I was pleased all around the park. But midfield, we definitely dominated, and I can't commend all the boys. To be fair, they put a great shift in, and really pleased with the result.
In the next round of the Cup, the Winchester first team will play the Bath second team away from home. But up first for Winchester is the Solent second team in the league. Tyler Reynolds, Winchester News Online.
Now for a roundup of Eastleigh's non-league action with Jude Richards and Jack Charlton.
Eastleigh lost 2-1 to Yeovil this weekend at Hewish Park. Thomas Knowles put the Glovers 1-0 up with a bullet from the edge of the box. The Spitfires found an equaliser midway through the second half, with Harry Pritchard netting his 4th goal of the season. Adi Yusuf snatched the win late on for Yeovil, which means it's back-to-back losses for Eastleigh. This leaves the Spitfires 15th in the National League. I'm joined with Jude Richards to discuss where Eastleigh could end up this season.
Well, yeah, Jack, they haven't had a great season so far. They sit 15th, as you said. They face Notts County this weekend, who are sat in 5th, and then Dagenham Redbridge, who sit in 7th. If they're not careful, if they lose these games, they will be dragged into a relegation fight. But however, if they do win these games, they can go up the table more. They're actually 7 points behind Solihull Moors at the moment, so that could be interesting.
And one of the main issues they've had is their goal scoring. They've only scored 18 goals in 14 games this season, with their top scorer being Harry Pritchard with only the 4 goals. This is definitely an area where they need to improve, isn't it?
Yeah, in the game they didn't struggle for creativity, but they definitely lack that striker up front, don't they, with only 4 goals.
Yeah, I totally agree. Thanks for your thoughts, Jude. Back to you in the studio.
Now from the football to the ice hockey, where the Basingstoke Bison took on the Swindon Wildcats off the back of a derby win last week against Bracknell. Charlie Swadling was at this one.
The Basingstoke Bison hosted the Swindon Wildcats at home on Saturday. The game started with a moment of silence as a poppy wreath was laid at the centre. The Bison took the lead as Liam Morris scored the opener, but the Wildcats were persistent throughout. Milton scored the Bison's second of the game, but Swindon managed to equalise before the end of the first round. The Bison looked more promising during the second round, with another goal from Milton and a 4th from Roberts. But the Wildcats pulled one back with a penalty before equalising. And the Bison soon took the lead again with a goal from George Norcliffe. The Bison slowed down in the third round and conceded 3 goals to the Swindon Wildcats as they showed determination and proved to be the stronger side and managed to end the game 5-7.
I haven't scored a lot this year, so it feels good to start putting some pucks in the net, builds confidence a little bit. The refs overall, I don't think they had a bad game tonight. I think they were very fair in what they called, and they called a lot both sides, so can't really fault them for their performance tonight. I think you can draw up to we're just not good enough as a team. We got to work harder in key areas of the game, and it comes down to a lot of the little things in those moments. I don't think we're doing the little things right now, and it's a quick fix, but we got to turn it around somehow.
The Bison play the Swindon Wildcats again away this Saturday. Charlie Swadling, Winchester News Online.
That's all for the sport, but now Grace Benson has all of the entertainment news for you this week.
Hi, I'm Grace, here with your entertainment news for this week.
Up first, Winchester Musicals and Opera Society finalised their preparations this week with their grand return to the main stage imminent. Torin Budd reports.
Winchester Musicals and Opera Society conducted their final rehearsal this week before their return to the big stage with their piece, A Chorus of Disapproval.
It was amazing. The build up to it has been really exciting. There was obviously a time not so long ago where we never thought we'd probably do it again. That's how it seemed anyway. I think people are more relaxed about the show. They appreciate, obviously, it is what it is. It's an amateur production, but it's very important. It's important to a lot of us for our own, I think, mental well-being, I think, more than anything else.
Really exciting. We can't wait to be back at the theatre, and yeah, it's just been really nice to go through the motions that you would normally do to do a big theatre production.
Hey, you! Did you play that? You touch that piano again, you're out of your ear, alright?
Yes, miss. Well, it feels really good actually. For a while it looked like no shows would be able to go on for quite a long time, so it's really nice to be able to be involved, and I was very thankfully asked to come and do it by Theo, the MD, so I'm really thankful to be in it now, because it's been so long since I've been in one.
Then I think ticket sales are, you know, they're good, but I think people are still a little bit sort of wary about coming back into the theatre, but we're just going to have to go with that and, you know, just be glad for the audience that we're going to get, I think.
So be sure to get down to the Theatre Royale Winchester this week for A Chorus of Disapproval that will definitely get your approval. Torin Budd, Winchester News Online.
Now time for some live music, as we got an inside look of some of Winchester's most promising upcoming artists. Tom Hooker has the story.
So I pick up the pace and try to take that.
This is the chance for ordinary people like you and me to become the next big thing. Roots Night is the longest running open mic event in Winchester and encourages all ages, abilities and genres to get up on stage.
Play music, it can be poetry, there can be dance acts, possibly jugglers on that stage, stand-up comedians. Everybody gets huge applause and support, whether they are just starting out or doing it for the 100th time, you know, any level of talent. It's really supportive and inclusive.
So I'm on my way, the engine is on, and I will be with you.
It's my second time here. The first time they were very appreciative, and I really enjoyed playing, so I tried to make time to come down again, and it was a really nice experience to come down here and play in front of a supportive audience.
This train come for me.
Roots is also a great way for performing artists to hone their skills and has given them the confidence they need to progress in their careers.
This is the launching platform for people who want to express themselves and want to like create music. Just look at Frank Turner. He's a man who was a local boy himself, grew up in the countryside near here, and he's now touring the world. And he started in his solo project in Roots Open Mic Night. It's what allows Winchester to actually provide the world with musical artists, really.
Tom Hooker, Winchester News Online.
And now we've got Ciara Donaghy and Izzy Higgs talking all things Taylor Swift to mark her re-recording of Red.
Taylor Swift released her re-recorded Red album on the 12th, featuring 9 new songs from the vault that didn't make the original album, featuring another new song from Ed Sheeran, as well as Chris Stapleton and Phoebe Bridgers. Taylor managed to break 2 Spotify records with this album release, as she was the most streamed female in a day on Spotify, as well as the most streamed album by a female. Our entertainment reporter Ciara is here with more. So, tell me how you felt about the album.
I thought the album was great, especially the 9 new songs with the 10-minute version of All Too Well. The sound of her music has definitely matured over time, and you can hear that in her voice as she's gotten older. I mean, of course, Fearless was released in April, and although you could hear that she had gotten older, it still had the country twang, whereas now doesn't really have it at all. Fans did notice that the album has moved from being a country album, which is what the Red original album has been listed as, but now it's listed as a pop album, and I do definitely think it's due to the sound of her voice changing.
Yeah, she's absolutely lost that sort of girlish country twang, which I think will be interesting when she goes back to re-recording older music.
Especially like her debut album, because that just screams country, so I'm really interested to see how that gets portrayed now.
That's the thing with Taylor Swift though, she is re-recording all of her old music, because the fact is that so many artists don't actually own the songs that they write, do they? And I think she's a really good example for taking back the reins.
She is, yeah, and she did announce that like every song that has Taylor's version written next to it is owned by her, and not many artists can say that they actually have those kind of rights. So that is incredible, yes.
And we can't talk about the album without talking about the short film that they released.
Of course, yeah, she wrote and directed it, didn't she? And every little detail she paid great attention to, even to the age of what the actors and actresses that she used. So like Sadie Sink is only 19 years old, and that's because Taylor was so young in the relationship that she's portraying, whereas Dylan O'Brien, who's playing the love interest, is 30. And so it's to make us feel sort of almost uncomfortable, so we can see what it was like for her, because obviously, you know, we all know her from Stranger Things, playing a child, and so it's incredible to see how her mind works and how that's really been shown.
Yeah, I mean, that kind of relationship is very normalised, but the fact is that she was very young, dating some people who should have known better, let's be honest.
And that's the point of the song. It really does, it shows her heartbreak, and that's what people can relate to. In the sound of her voice, the pain that you hear, all the new lyrics that we've got to hear and love, because the song really just has been lengthened massively.
Yeah,
it was a long song originally, but now it's a film. It's a short film. Yeah.
And she released a new video last night, didn't she?
She did, directed by Blake Lively. That was the song that she's got with Chris Stapleton. So that was, I personally think that was really good as well, to see how she's also using other women in the industry to help do it, and not just her typical man's job. Never get a man to do anything.
Brilliant. Thanks, Kira.
That's all from me this week. Back to you, Ben.
That's all from Winchester News Online this week. Thanks for watching.